Welcome everyone, and thank you for tuning in. This is the account with the first report in 2023. I hope you all had a good New Year celebration. Today is day 312 of the war in Ukraine. The UK Ministry of Defence has not released a daily update, so we will be skipping that part. News were dominated by more Russian missile and UAV attacks on Ukraine. More on that in a moment before we go over the usual news segment with the situation inside Ukraine, the occupied territories, and the international developments. However, there have been only a few articles to report on. First, though, we start with the flashpoints along the front. Bakhmut. Russia reportedly made small gains north of Bakhmut, while Ukraine managed to make some gains south of the city. Highly unconfirmed rumors started spreading today, claiming Ukraine managed to liberate Kurdyumivka. Personally, I would file those claims more under sensationalism than truth. Considering other reports of small advances by Ukraine, the situation most likely puts Kurdyumivka as contested again. Makivka. Allegedly, Ukraine hit the former School 19 building, wounding and killing many Russian soldiers. Locals are angry because no one is talking about it and authorities have closed off the area while acting like nothing happened. A video shared on social media shows the building being completely destroyed. I am mentioning this incident because claims from both sides suggest a lot of Russian casualties. The numbers range between 60 to 600. Huliaipol. The Russian Ministry of Defense reported that Doroshnyanka, just to the south of the city, was captured. However, most Russian propaganda channels only reported Russian troops tried to advance in the area. Recent reports suggest fighting is still ongoing without any conclusion. And now for the latest on Russia's missile and UAV attack on Ukraine. After yesterday's missile and UAV attack, Russia launched another one during the night. Vitaly Kim, head of Mykolaiv Oblast Military Administration, reported shortly before midnight that 2 waves of Shahed drones had been launched at Ukraine. Shortly after midnight, air raid sirens started sounding throughout Ukraine. In Kyiv, they started at around 12:34 a.m. and lasted until roughly 5 a.m. According to information also confirmed by the General Staff of Ukraine, approximately 45 UAVs were launched during the night. The Kyiv City Military Administration stated that 32 aerial targets were destroyed over Kyiv. However, they did not specify whether those were UAVs or missiles. Yuri Inat, spokesperson for the Ukrainian Air Force, said air defense personnel had barely time to reload systems and were firing them like artillery. He once again called on allies to consider providing additional systems to help reduce the strain. The head of the Kyiv Regional Military Administration, Oleksiy Kuleba, meanwhile reported damaged infrastructure in Kyiv due to the UAV attack, but did not provide further information. However, it was confirmed that water and heat was working in the city. Multiple metro stations were shut down around Kyiv as debris and fragments from missiles were discovered. Bomb disposal experts were called in to clear the tracks. In its morning statement, Ukrenergo stated that the energy system was currently stable and no emergency shutdowns were needed. Later during the day, DTEK, Ukraine's biggest private energy company, reported damage to one of its thermal power plants but did not provide any further information. Blackouts were reported in Kherson and neighboring settlements after a Russian attack targeted a critical infrastructure facility and caused damage. In Kyiv, the Taras Shevchenko National University was severely damaged in the Russian attack on December 31st. The damage this time is several times larger than the damage caused by the strike on October 10th. Tonight around 10 p.m. Kyiv time, Mykolaiv Regional Military Administration head Vitaly Kim reported another 2 waves of suicide drones being launched by Russia. Moving on to the latest news out of Ukraine. This year began on February 24th, without prefaces and preludes. Sharply, early, at 4 o'clock. It was dark, it was loud. It was hard for many and scary for some. 311 days have passed. It can still be dark, loud, and complicated for us. But we will definitely never be afraid again, and we'll never be ashamed. It was our year, the year of Ukraine, the year of Ukrainians. President Zelensky said in his New Year's speech. During the day, Russia massively shelled Zaporizhzhia Oblast. In the city of Orikhiv, 1 civilian was killed and 3 injured. Overall, 15 communities were targeted on January 1st. Nothing has been reported out of the occupied territories today, so we will be moving on to the international developments. In its daily assessment, the Institute for the Study of War writes about Russian President Vladimir Putin's continued uncertainty to be able to shape Russian information space. In his speech, President Putin tied the existence of Russia to a victory in the war against Ukraine, suggesting Russia has historical rights to Ukraine and that Russia's independence and sovereignty depend on regaining control of Ukraine. The banality of most of the speech is consistent with previous assessments that Vladimir Putin may have postponed his annual address to the Russian Federation Assembly because he was uncertain of his ability to shape the Russian information space amidst increasing criticism of his conduct of the war, the report said. The Institute further wrote that Russia is unable to maintain the high pace of operations in Ukraine as Russian troops are depleting artillery ammunition stocks. The report mentions a comment by Kirilo Budanov, who claimed Russia is currently using 19 to 20,000 artillery shells a day, down from about 60,000. This echoes the UK Ministry of Defence intelligence update from December 24th, saying Russia is lacking the required artillery ammunition to support any large-scale offensive operations. The Ministry of Defense of Russia claimed that the New Year's Eve attack on Kyiv targeted a defense complex that was involved in the production of combat drones. Allegedly, storage parking lots and UAV launch sites were destroyed, and therefore Russia thwarted Kyiv's plans to carry out terrorist attacks against Russia in the near future. According to Vadim Shibitsky, a representative of the main intelligence directorate of the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, Russia has started to combine and change tactics in its attacks on Ukraine. Especially various configurations of Iranian-made UAVs, old-type missiles, high-precision ballistic missiles, and modified S-300 missiles are being used. He further noted that the production of missiles does not stop, even though Russia is struggling to procure components. Missiles that were manufactured in the fourth quarter of 2022 have been found recently, suggesting produced stock is directly given to the military for use against Ukraine. Alexander Lukashenko, the president of Belarus, has signed his first decree on January 1st, proclaiming 2023 a year of peace. The decree aims to consolidate the Belarusian people, strengthening the ideas of peace and creative work in society. It is important to keep in mind that Belarus is providing Russia with infrastructure and military equipment to attack Ukraine. According to the UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, the United Kingdom will stop the import of Russian LNG starting today. According to Natalia Humenyuk, spokesperson of the Operational Command South, on December 31st, Russia, for the first time, used missile carriers of the Caspian Sea fleet to fire missiles at Ukraine. This could indicate problems with logistics and delivery of additional ammunition to the naval base in Sevastopol, Crimea. And now for the intelligence updates. Since the UK Ministry of Defence did not release a statement today, we will be going straight to the evening report of the General Staff of Ukraine. During the day, the enemy carried out 35 airstrikes, in particular with the Shahed 136 UAV, all of which were shot down by units of the Defense Forces of Ukraine. The Russian occupiers also fired 16 rockets from multiple rocket launchers, in particular at a children's hospital in the city of Kherson. The enemy, who lost 760 people killed only yesterday, continues to attempt offensive actions in the Bakhmut area and tries to improve the tactical positions of its troops in the Kupiansk, Liman, and Avdiivka directions. The enemy is defending in the Novopavlovsk and Zaporizhzhia directions and is regrouping troops in the Kherson area. In order to destabilize the humanitarian situation in the temporarily occupied territories of the Kherson region and to force the local population to the so-called voluntary evacuation, The Russian occupation forces are firing mortars at Oleshki, Gola Pristani, Plavna, as well as country settlements between the mentioned settlements. Mobilization measures continue in the temporarily occupied Ukrainian Crimea. Military commissariats have started checking lists of people who have not yet participated in a large-scale invasion of Ukraine and are subject to conscription for mobilization in 2023. The enemy continues to use civilian facilities for the treatment of armed Russian occupiers. Thus, in the city of Permovaisk, Alshevsk district, Luhansk region, on the premises of a local school, the occupiers deployed a field hospital and are treating about 100 servicemen of the occupying forces. In addition, more than 150 wounded mercenaries of the Wagner PMC are being treated on the premises of the local brothel, equipped as a military hospital. And that concludes today's report. If you want to check out any of the articles I mentioned, you can find links to them in the description. Thank you for tuning in and have a great day. You were listening to the account. Slava Ukraini.